फ्लैट हो गया है ना?
सारा शॉर्ट्स कवर हो रहा है. We are live.
We're live?
Yeah, we are
Yes.
live.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit like, please hit comment. Okay, bye. Joking.
Only if you hit like
Comment.
and if you comment, then we'll stay back.
Yes, please guys. Okay. But anyway, what are our topics?
We are live. We start with the
Iran,
market.
Israel.
Yes.
That's the big topic.
It was expected, no?
Was it?
Yeah.
Such an escalation? I don't think so, yeah.
See, the moment US said, and there was others who were saying that Iran is very close to building a nuclear bomb, and it has succeeded in enriching uranium. This was expected, and Iran has been stalling US in the discussion.
So I think the US-Iran trade talks in terms of the nuclear deal
was, and I think Trump was warning Iran as well, saying that if you don't move on this, then we will have to take actions. But the action was taken by Israel and with the support of US. So that's something which is there. But what the market did in the morning was a little knee-jerk, I feel.
Yeah.
It basically came down, and then we have seen a short covering which has happened.
We've seen a
I think, but
fantastic
recovery. But I think the
Fantastic.
knee-jerk was also mainly to take into consideration what happened to crude, right?
Yeah.
Only the way crude started from 3, 5, 7, 10, 13,
12, yeah.
right?
In
In
fact,
terms of
every
Brent.
time we were refreshing the ticker.
She's talking about the percentage.
Yeah,
percentage
exactly,
of
yeah.
increase, not the price.
So, yes. So that increase that happened is what markets started reacting to, because that crude increase, the impact on the dollar index, the impact on the rupee, and that's what slightly, made the markets nervous. But I think it's interesting to say that the Indian markets now are seeming resilient. They have
Shrugged it off.
yeah, you've
I
shrugged it
don't- I
off,
don't
but they
think
have
just
their
shrugged it
own.
off. They are basically in a cautious mood. Had it been on Thursday, the reaction would have been different.
Yeah.
This is a Friday, so already we are coming off Thursday's fall,
Correct.
which is there, which happened yesterday, going below 25,000.
Yes.
And I would have thought that today they would have consolidated around 25,800 or so, but the geopolitical brought it down to below 24,800. Going in, they don't want to. I don't think traders are trying to. Yeah, they're not trying to carry any of the positions over the weekend, because it could be volatile, because if there's escalation which comes in. So now the trade is very clear for the last 2-3 months. Ever since this April thing happened, you don't know what's going to happen over a weekend, whether it's a trade, tariff, or whether it's a Trump or an attack or anything which is there. Traders are playing a very short game, which ends on a Friday, especially when there are tensions around, and they don't want to be seen sitting on the wrong side of the fence. So they are doing that, and then taking it back on Monday, and then you do one Monday, you have a Tuesday expiry of options of sensex on sensex, and then you have a Thursday expiry. Of a Nifty which is there.
Correct.
So that thing is happening consistently, especially where that there is. So yesterday night you had the Israel attacking Iranian sites. Now US is also there, and Iran has retaliated with some 100 drones which have been defended by Israel. So this escalation is going to happen. What is important is that I think there is IAEA notification which has come that there has been some sites which have been hit, and they are looking at any potential radioactive leaks which are coming in.
Yes.
So that is the only thing which is there. So
But when you mention with this, the other angle I want to add to this is the diplomatic relations between India, China as well right now, which seem to be improving, taking into consideration where they've agreed to a direct travel between the two nations.
Direct flights.
Exactly. So if you talk about that,
it
I
was
think
earlier there also, right?
No.
I don't think so. Just resumed now.
It has gone. We used to go through Hong Kong.
Yeah, it broke today morning that they've resumed.
They've resumed. So now if you talk about that, what happens is, this probably is a step towards your positivity in your rare earth deal as well, right? So I
Yeah.
think there is
See, I
somewhere
think-
Trump is playing a role as well to get that equation built.
So there are two alignments which is happening, right? One is a quad alignment which is there, which where India is there, right? Which is US, Australia, Japan, and India, which is there. The other one is the Shanghai, which has Russia, India, China in that complex, right? So which is no, not it's not BRICS. It's Shanghai.
Shanghai, yeah.
Shanghai Cooperation, which is SCO, which is called, and that is also now becoming very active with Russia and China pulling in India, and I think that's there are two dual thing. And now India is also realizing that after Operation Sindoor, you need to have a counterweight to US as well. So
yes,
that is one also reason why we are seeing this kind of thing.
And which is a positive, right?
Which is a positive, because then you're not aligned to any particular group or aligned. So if you look at Israel and Iran, India has very good relationship with Israel and Iran both, and so it's playing the neutral card because because India has Chabar port, which it's developed in Iran, and then you have Israel as well, which is the Haifa port, which is also one of the ports developed by Indian companies, which is there. So I think there is geopolitical diplomatic management which is happening there,
But with that,
which is good for us because it's bringing in some bit of stability and counterweight to the US.
But as you mentioned about the ports, as you mentioned about the geopolitical aspect, what happens, Sajeet, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, which is an important route in terms of trade? There is no disruption yet, but if there is a disruption, there will be some impact that will come in. And you're clearly seeing that in the markets right now, where all your shipping companies are up. Your Baltic index, which Hersh was mentioning in the morning as well, is seeing an uptick of 10%.
10%.
So clearly your freight charges, which are going up,
It's more of
benefit
an
for
insurance-led freight charge
correct,
increase
but
which is there.
your shipping companies will probably gain out of this. But what happens to your ports? I mean, there could be lower volumes. It's a pretty double picture that you have.
For the viewers, we need to inform them that Strait of Hormuz is the strait which connects. You have Saudi, you have Kuwait, you have Qatar, you have Oman on one side, and then you have Iran on the other side, which is there. And if the conflict comes in, that's a strait which becomes a conflict zone in terms of sea conflict zone, and then there is disruption of oil and CNG which comes into play, which is there, and that's the reason why you're seeing some impact. And India has, I think, more than 2/3 of its oil requirements coming in from that region.
I think the alternative route is going to be important
The
from here,
alternative route
right?
is basically either you take it from Russia, which is a long
I think
way,
the UK route, right?
Yeah, UK route. But again, it's a long route, or from the US, which is there. So that's something which is, and that's the reason why you're seeing some kind of. I mean, the ONGC was the only stock which was up at open.
ONGC, HOEC, which is exploration again.
So
And
all
I think
the rig
Oil
prices,
India.
all the ship prices, all are going to go up because of.
And on the back of this geopolitical, you're seeing a counter impact on defense as well, which is buzzing in trade, right? Because the demand automatically increases, but it's more of a sentimental impact.
Last few days they have shown some
Correct.
correction.
Some correction. So there is
back,
buying and that sentimental buying that is happening currently, taking into consideration your geopolitical probably could look at it.
Yeah, that's it brings into fore that you need to have a active defense complex which is there, and that's what is they're talking about.
I think defense. And I think defense. But defense, what's happening is, Sajeet, it's becoming a play where it's moving on news. It's not moving on the fundamental news of the company. It's more in terms of what's happening across the world is what is moving defense as a sector right now in our country.
That is
because you will not see major moves coming in if a defense company is getting a major order right now.
No, that's not how it's
because
not
the
happen,
execution, everything is something which is absolutely over time.
It's not something off the shelf kind of thing, right? Means you have the order, you take time. What happens is that the way you look at the defense companies is from an export point of view, and that's what you're referring to. That when the global conflict happens, alignments happens in that sense, and then the major powers are busy providing arms and armament to these conflict, and what happens is it leads to delay in supply of our needs or needs of the third party countries or which are not part of the conflict. And that's where the Indian defense complex comes into play, because in the last 2-3 years what we've seen is a lot of exports happening from India companies to third world countries like in Africa or Middle East also in some part of it, and some of the Asian countries as well, which is happening because they're not able to get the supplies from maybe from a US or a UK or a France or any other country where there is an established defense complex which is there. So that is something which is in some way good for Indian companies who are looking at pushing exports.
Right. I think to add to this, I think the other thing we need to touch base on right now is what's happened with Air India, the crash in Ahmedabad. I mean, sad news. One survivor that we have so far, but let's connect
miracle,
this.
Right?
It's a miracle. It's his luck. It's his karma, probably, I would say. But let's connect this to the business part of the side of it. One is the issues with regards to Boeing, and the second aspect is, if you have to look at Indian companies, the insurance aspect of it. And I think Hersh will be the best person to weigh in on the insurance part.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, so how does insurance work in this case? Most of these insurances are globally recognized. There is low concentration risk on single insurers that has been insured basis global regulations. And therefore, while Tata AIG may have taken up a bulk of the insurance, a lot of it would likely have been reinsured as well.
So, explain to us in a very simple way how insurance happens, especially general insurance happens. So, you have a general insurer who insures.
Yes.
And that suppose I am a general insurance and you are X and you are coming to me saying that you have to insure this particular thing for me, then you give me 100 rupees, or you are saying that okay, I'm going to insure for 100 rupees. That 100 rupees is not fully insured by me. It percolates upwards, right?
Correct, upwards. Yeah. So basically then there'll be an AIG.
Yeah.
Which will sit as a reinsurer to some of these insurance policies, because these insurance policies are large, right?
No, first it will be GIC, because the rule is that a large portion of that reinsurance has to happen in India by GIC.
Okay,
and
so
GIC does
so you have GIC sitting, and then you have a consortium which is led by AIG in this case. And they basically take over a large part of the liability which Tata AIG themselves cannot bear in terms of risk on their books.
Yes.
I don't know if that kind of explains it.
Liability,
if the liability is so large, like $20 billion is the total liability for all the planes combined of Air India, there can be instances where such liabilities can get triggered, and there's no way Tata AIG can actually, there's no way in which a Tata AIG can actually afford to keep such a large liability on their books.
And this liability is on the one which they bear to the passengers, as well as the third parties.
Yes,
right?
It's a mix. Yes, so
it's a mix for the aircraft. It's a mix for the passengers who are traveling.
Correct.
And the third part is the third parties who may get impacted by that accident.
Yes.
In that, so it gets split in that way, and it is. It's not entirely on the immediate company. It gets distributed. So they pay a fee for that distribution. In the case of airlines, there's 1 in a million that gets. Gets involved in an accident, and so the rates are much lower. But now with Boeing coming in extensively, the insurance rates are going to go up.
They could go up. Yes, they could go up, and yes, ultimately it will be two parties which will bear that cost. One will be Indigo and other players in the industry might get impacted by this, and then it's the customer at the end of the day, because the customer will eventually bear some part of the cost. Only that pass through, how long does that take for it to happen, will be something that we'll have to wait and watch. And of course, it's non-quantifiable also to actually understand as to how quickly the pass through has happened.
You cannot quantify the losses which are happening because of an accident, but the point is that there is a monetary compensation that comes in because of the insurance.
But frankly, on Indian companies, at least basis whatever I have been reading, the compensation or the impact is going to be very low. So there's going to be 1,000 to 1,500 crore cost, which is going to be borne by all of these insurance companies globally as well as locally. A large part of that cost, maybe 90% odd, will be borne by global giants, and therefore will be very small in the larger scheme of things for the size at which some of these entities are. And of course, there'll be some part of it borne by Indian companies. So you'll see a GIC RE, you'll see a New India Assurance. Both of those stocks were down in trade yesterday as well.
Yes, they were
3.5% odd lower, especially the last maybe couple of hours is where they saw the maximum amount of impact. And I would reckon that it's likely because of this. And so that is one, but it's not going to be large, the liability. 1,000 crore if it's only passengers plus plane, but there is also third party liability. Likely it's going to go 1,500 to 2,000 is my guess.
I think
because
GIC Re has come and said that they're expecting a liability of 218 to 225 or 250 million dollars or something.
Okay.
Total claims.
Okay, that is also large. Frankly.
Yeah,
but I mean
it's
the
around
largest
2,000 odd crores, which is coming in, right?
Yeah,
But that entire 2,000
crores
crores will not flow through the P&L of GIC.
But it's extremely complex, to be very frank with you, it's extremely complex. What qualifies third party, what does not.
I mean, that's their
Why has
calculations,
this accident been caused? So the cause itself will first be determined. Thereafter, the math will be done as to how much.
Yeah, it's as far as third party is concerned, I think they would get whatever is required because that's a loss for them. But I think the airline thing is dependent on the investigation done by the Indian agency, and the US NTSB is also.
No, even the payouts, sir. Even the payouts to passengers from insurance companies is based on what the outcome is. That's whatever I have read, frankly. Okay. So,
in fact, I just want to give in a quick update on Israel-Iran. I'm just picking up that Israel has begun Iran drone interception outside the borders. And they're demanding urgent UN Security Council meet on the Israel attack. That's what Iran is demanding. And they've said they're intercepting drones in Jordan, Syria airspace. And there are warning sirens that are being heard in Jordan, and Israel is intercepting Iran drones. So this is something which is, this is something which is escalating as well. Yeah. In fact, let's
take some of the questions actually. Is Kingslayer, can I accumulate Tata Motors given their huge promises now? Will it touch like 1,000 by 2028 maybe?
Sir, if you knew that, I don't think you would be sitting here
and
telling you that.
And asking that question. As simple as that.
He is not your typical influencer who's trying to influence you incorrectly. That's not.
I can tell you only this much, that in the next few months you're going to have a demerger impact coming into Tata Motors.
Yeah, the CV business will get demerged versus the passenger vehicles.
And then CV business is likely to be valued little more than the PV business because of the kind of margins which is there. JLR is still a work in progress in terms of the kind of impact US, UK and India US deal comes in. So how JLR will play out in that entire thing is there. But JLR has its own plans. They want to become a bit. They want to become net debt positive. Net debt zero in FY26. If I'm not wrong, that's what the CFO told us. So it's all about the Indian car market, and we don't see much of a hope coming in the PV market as of today.
I think the only hope right now is in the EV market, where M&M is blocking the share out, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a place where, and that too, if you look at the rare earth magnets issue which is there, if it doesn't get resolved in a month or so, then we're going to see even that impact.
But I think, taking into consideration what's happening, it should be resolved. That's what the world is talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think while US and China has agreed on all those terms, it hasn't been implemented yet, and India is still negotiating with China on this.
Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty happening in auto, but two things which I noticed, frankly, in auto and Hiral. That auto has bounced back from the bottom and bounced back very, very well. So from that 18,000 Nifty auto number that we saw maybe in April, it's now at 24,000, and it's well off the highs as well. So while the Nifty is just about maybe 6 to 7% from its all-time high, maybe 7 to 8% from its all-time high, the Nifty auto index is a good 15% from its all-time high. So that delta within the auto basket is quite.
The
auto
delta
and IT.
The delta is also dependent on how the companies are going to perform. Right?
Correct.
You can have the delta. इतने ऑल टाइम ऐसे इतना नीचे है, इतना भागना बाकी है,
Correct.
वो है. But if the companies are not going to perform and if the industry is not going to have that kind of volume growth, the delta उधर ही रहेगा ना.
Correct.
चेंज हो जाएगा.
Change
चेंज
हो
नहीं
जाए-
होगा. On a daily basis 52 वीक हाई चेंज होता रहता है ना, क्योंकि लास्ट 52 हाई तो आगे
And market stretch both ways, right? The pessimism and the optimism stretches both
so
ways.
you have to look at
Difficult to call, but I mean, we're just putting that as an observation.
I think other question we should take is Sajeet for you again.
Yeah.
What makes more sense for India to buy American F-35, Russian Su-57, and can manufacturing it in India benefit Hindustan Aeronautics? That's a question from MN. And to counter to that, an interesting other point that's coming in from Kalyan is that because of Iran, Israel will buy all military components from India और HAL को 5 साल से एक मैक डिलीवर कर नहीं पा रहा. So 2 साल में पूरा सप्लाई कैसे करेगा वो? Let's take both of these together.
Let me. There's a lot of chatter
Yeah.
Ever since the Aero Show when both F-35 and Su-57 were displayed there, and both are fifth generation planes. The only issue here which I see is that we have a timeline of 6 to 7 years before India gets next 200 planes, which is Tejas Mach 1 and Mach 1A and Mach 2, which will come into play by FY 30 or 32, which is there. उसके बाद AMCA शुरू होगा, which is the advanced medium combat aircraft, which is for which I think a letter of interest is going to come out. So my sense is that
Sorry. Bye, Hiral.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye,
joining
guys.
us.
Bye. See you guys
my sense is
You
that
want to watch Hiral, you can go straight to the NDTV Profit
NDTV
live
live.
feed. You'll see her there. Sorry.
So my sense is that yes, there would be a requirement of fifth generation flight aircraft between now and maybe FY 35, means in last 10 years, and that will be short duration one. Whether we go for F-35 or we will give for Su-57 is a question which the armed forces have to take. But what I've heard is that F-35 is a very expensive and very heavy aircraft which is there. And recently the news came in that even the US Air Force has cut down the budgets for F-35 in the big beautiful budget what they are asking for F-35. So so that's something. But we have excellent relationships with Russia. They are willing to do some kind of co-production in India. There is a supply chain in process which can be easily put up for Su-57. It's a question of whether we want to do it, because we were planning to go for the fifth generation as a co-development with Russia, but we decided not to go. And we decided that we will make our own fifth generation, which is AMCA, which is there. So yeah. So I think it's a little far off to decide whether we're going to take F-35 or Su-57 at this point in time.
Okay, I'm going to try and focus in on questions of yesterday more than today.
Yeah.
Nifty to reach 26K.
अरे वो तो चल रहा है ना मेरे और नीरज के बीच में डिबेट.
26. आपके पीछे 28K का डिबेट.
28 और 27 का चल रहा है ना. हमने अगले साल का बोला है. 26 बहुत दूर है अभी.
Okay.
I don't think next one quarter में.
मेरा व्यू है ये साल जाएगा.
दिवाली तक आएगा.
ये साल में 26 हो जाएगा. But it is like placing a punt in a Goa casino, frankly. So I wouldn't put any money behind this.
देखने के लिए 1200 पॉइंट ही दूर है ना.
हाँ, exactly. Which is why I feel
बहुत दूर है.
Which is why I feel ये साल में हो जाएगा.
Just see ना 25,000 we did few days back and we're not able to hold 25,000.
Correct. But I still feel कि ये साल हो जाएगा. But again, if I really had to make money, I'd rather put it in a Goa casino than put it on this. So I'm not really sure. But anyway, if you force me, then that's my answer. Vihari is saying, hi guys, you're doing a fun job. Thank you, Vihari. Fun to watch. What's your take with regard to a power grid? Long term, say 5 years. Vihari, we've done a KYC on power grid. Yeah. We take great pain in doing this. Please go and watch it.
Please drop that interview here so that we can have a look at it.
And, power infrastructure is going to be the next big play.
No, what I last saw was 150 lakh crores is required over the next 5 to 10 years for the kind of power which is going to come up in India by 2030. And that's the kind of infrastructure requirement we have, and power grid is leading there. So even if it grows on a nominal basis, I don't know, you've done the KYC, right? Even if it grows at a nominal basis, it has a huge runway which is there.
Correct. I would look at this story more from a 5-year perspective. They are doing a very large capex. They are planning to do 30,000 crore of capex, which is extremely
Every year
large.
or every year? Or?
No. That's the capex plan, at least at the moment, for 5 years. But the typical piece about this is that they keep increasing the capex as the year rolls by. So they may say 5 years from now, 30,000. They may well make it 40. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years.
Just see this, right?
It could happen.
We need to reach 500 gigawatt of renewable by FY30. We are at 200 gigawatt now, which basically means we need to add 50 gigawatts every year. Now, if you're adding 50 gigawatts every year, that power needs to be evacuated from where it's been produced to the central grid.
Correct.
And that's where companies like Power Grid comes into play, because we have private sectors which are not as big as Power Grid, but Power Grid is the daddy of all of them.
Correct.
There is a huge capex plan which they will have to do to evacuate this kind of power.
Okay, so frankly, I'm unable to track that data which I'm talking about. But why don't you go watch KYC? We'll have all of the data for you over there. So maybe that will give you a better perspective. But thank you for that. Vaibhav said 2 stocks of mine, EID Parry and Welspun Corp. I have a little bit of knowledge on EID Parry. So Vaibhav, EID Parry owns 56% of Coromandel. It's a deep value kind of a play, at least was a deep value kind of a play before this entire rally where the stock has now doubled. Also, it's into sugar, so ethanol play. Also, it's into agri. You are going to see this as, and if you are a long-term investor, I would rather play this from a long-term perspective, because one, it's a great group, part of Murugappa group, so it's a fabulous group to be in. And second, you have all of these plays, fertilizer, agri, you also have sugar and ethanol. So it's a good combination to have. No reason why you may not need to add at this point because you've seen the rally, but I wouldn't be sure. If you're a long-term holder, then maybe at this point is a good time to add as well. So depends on your duration, frankly.
On Welspun Corp, it's a prominent player in the large diameter pipe market. It has diversified itself from specialized pipe to TMT, stainless steel, tubes and bars, which is there, water tanks. And home interior solutions, which is part of it. So there's a diversification which is happening, and that's going to play out. It has a good, robust US business operation with fully booked order book for next 2 years, and it stands to benefit from reversal in the US sentiment towards oil and gas exploration. So if US is going to start, drill baby drill, there is a good demand for the pipes which they make, and that's something which which will be good for Welspun Corp in that sense. So from a company point of view, it's doing decently, and I was looking at one of the brokerage note, and they think that it's strategically aligned to growth.
Yeah. And see, but it's a cyclical business, mind you. So again, the thought process here is if you're a long-term holder at 15-16 times earnings, you're seeing 25% ROC kind of a number.
There's a 19,000 crores of order book which is there, right?
Correct. That sense. Correct. So it doesn't look too bad, per se. So not sure in terms of what again your timeline is. If your timeline is stretched, then it seems like it's a good ad, at least.
Yeah, 19,000 crores of order book to be implemented in FY26 and 27. So that's the kind of order visibility that it has. So it's from that point of view, it looks good.
Okay. The other one is on the NASDAQ. Why does the NASDAQ 100 versus NASDAQ futures have a difference of close to 2,000?
NASDAQ 100 नहीं होगा, NASDAQ futures, 100 futures and NASDAQ का लिखा है ना?
I don't know. Here, Kshitij Shukleja has asked this question. I have no knowledge of this, and therefore
I need to see, because there are two NASDAQ which Kshitij you are looking at. One is a NASDAQ Composite and one is a NASDAQ 100 index which is there. both of them are on different exchanges. The futures are trading on a different exchange, and NASDAQ spot is trading on a different exchange, and that could be one of the reasons why I just have to look at the numbers to just to give you an idea of how it is actually. But my sense is that the reason is fairly simple. A NASDAQ 100 futures is something what people track, and normally when you talk of NASDAQ, people talk of NASDAQ Composite, which is more of a tech-oriented one, and so there's a difference between both the index which are trading on the exchanges.
So Infobeans tech पे कोई view है. There's Naman Sharma. He's saying that they're going to do a buyback? Question mark? I'm not sure.
I haven't heard of it. Have you heard of
Infobeans
buyback?
I have not heard of Infobeans tech ka buyback, frankly, and their dividend yield is also just about 0.25%. So I don't know if there is some large special situation playing out where they have cash. Doesn't look like on the balance sheet.
2025 में कुछ किया था. There's a buyback proposal to not to exceed. Yes, there's a buyback underway. I think the record date for the buyback was May 27th. If it's, I don't know whether it's underway. It's going ahead on the 464 per share buyback, which is there. And number of shares they're buying is 2.15 lakh.
Okay.
So it's a 464 per share. What's the current price that you see of Infobeam?
Infobeam is trading at 386.
Yeah, so there's a buyback is happening at a higher price, which is
considerably higher price. Maybe you want to consider it, Naman. So, well, that's perspective. View on Pyramal Pharma. Shubham Dimri is asking, do you have a view, sir? CDMO, Pyramal Pharma.
No, I don't know.
They're increasing their CDMO presence is what my understanding is.
Yeah.
Stock has done very well for itself.
They have a Pyramal Pharma or Pyramal
Pharma?
Pharma. No, I think they have couple of divisions in Pyramal Pharma. One is the CDMO division, and one is I think there is another specialty division which they work on. But CDMO they are trying to increase the presence. Maybe we can get one day Varsha in and she can give us a good.
Yeah, otherwise what we'll do is Monday Neeraj sir will be back in. He understands CDMO very well, so maybe he can answer it. So maybe we'll wait for that. Sumit Bhagwat is asking, outside India, which markets look attractive? China, US, Europe, Brazil.
China, US,
Europe, Brazil.
There's a lot of chatter that funds will flow to China, and that's what is happening as of now. Europe is reviving. Brazil is also okay, and I think US is at the moment, even though S&P 500 is very close to all-time high, I think they're saying that there may be a hit which will come in. So I think मेरा होगा China, Europe, Brazil, US.
Okay. Mine is slightly different. Europe, India.
Okay.
Maybe I think Europe may be in a good cycle and maybe that's why. But outside of that, India long term for sure.
Yeah.
Roshan, should I book profits on BSE then? Sitting on 85% or just average up more after it settles? Sitting on 85%, I'm not so sure. Is that a portfolio allocation to BSE, Roshan? Then that is some fabulous amount of money you seem to have made. But I don't think so. I think you've made a gain of 85%.
Yeah, but the point is that you have to decide why have you invested in BSE. Is it just for short-term gains, or is it going to be part of your long-term portfolio?
And what do you do with the money after you take it out?
Yeah,
do you have more attractive opportunities?
Yeah.
What is your timeline which you are looking at?
See, there is another exchange likely to list, but that will take at least 9 months from here. 6 to 9 months. Do you want to exit the entire space? That's a call that you have to take. What we see is that BSE is doing decently. Its market shares on expiry days is almost hitting 40-45% of the premium turnover which is getting traded on the exchanges. So my sense is that there is that entire run up that has happened in BSE is on the back of that kind of movement which is there. Whether it's going to be sustained going forward, I don't know. There is a lot of back and forth happening with respect to expiry day, whether NSE wants to move is Thursday to Tuesday. BSE already has a Tuesday expiry. What kind of impact that will happen on BSE? That's something which is, we should get to know something shortly, next few weeks or something. By then we will get to know. But as of now, it seems that business is good for BSE, and BSE has been doing better.
Yeah, and
you don't have an alternative, right? If NSE was a listed entity, then you can say that you can switch from BSE to NSE. And NSE being a larger entity and with a larger balance sheet and P&L could make sense in that sense. But today you have only BSE, which is a exchange which is there.
Yeah, I mean,
and MCX is not doing much in that.
If it's a long-term play, then maybe you want to hold on. If you have better opportunities, then maybe you want to sell. The run-up has been sharp. Yes, it's been under ASM stage 1 now, so maybe that's a consideration as well. Yeah, Roshan, but I hope we've kind of tried to give you as much perspective as possible without.
Yeah, I think we have. There's a super chat which came in from Kalyan. We answered that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we answered that.
Yeah, because
I
Iran
think
Israel
Hiral
buy
that,
all
so.
military components from.
Yeah, there's just so many questions.
It's not
I think
going to
happen
so quickly. Of course, we have a lot of India-Israel joint ventures which are functioning in India, and they're making drones and specialized products. Will that go up? Will that revenues for them from those JVs go up? Yes, possibly yes. It will go up. It's going to happen in the short term. I don't know. Simple as that. It depends upon what kind of load. Many of them are anyways making for the Israeli counterparts in any case. So the products are built in India or assembled in India and then sent across for the final assembly or integration in Israel. So yeah, so there is some of the companies which are already doing it. But I don't think HAL will get anything from that. HAL's book is already so large.
Okay, so there are too many questions. I'm not sure if we can take all of them.
There's Utkarsh Savings Small Finance Bank, which is
yes. Roshan is asking.
Yeah.
Can be a good turnaround? Yes, I think so. Microfinance and this entire cycle, if it were to recover, then yes, could well be a turnaround. Let me try and keep it as brief as possible. Sula, do you have a view, sir?
Sula is supposed to be the beneficiary of the Maharashtra excise tax, because there is no tax on anything which has been produced in Maharashtra. So from that point of view, yes. It's growing at a decent size, but now that the India-UK trade deal is happening, there will be a lot of wines that will come into from there. I think even Australian wines are going to come into it because India has a thing. So this space is going to get little more competitive with respect to overseas wines coming in, and because duties are going to be much lower than what it is as per the trade agreement. So watch out for this space. If Sula is able to make a mark for itself in this competition, it's something which is there.
Deep Industries, do you have a view?
No, I don't have a view on Deep.
Sorry, Sanchit. Deep Industries, we're going to have to skip. Firstly, out of time as well. Mudassir Bashir is asking PG Electroplast. It's been static for a while. Is it valuations? Is my reckoning?
Yeah, it is valuation. I think Neeraj spoke about it as well.
Yes.
Not just Neeraj. I think
Puneet also
spoke about it 2 days back.
The thing is when you see that kind of rally and you see the way in which valuations have shaped up, it will take some time to move, because then the focus shifts to execution. You're waiting for some execution to happen. So I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm really not surprised as to why this one is static since a while. Jio Finance, Tarl and Hindustan Zinc. We have Karun Kinthada, who's a regular viewer of the show, is what he's saying. Thank you, Karun, for being a regular viewer. You keep us going. Please hit like, please comment, and please share. Jio Finance, we've spoken about this.
Yeah.
Large part of the book is Reliance Industries, because they own 6% of Reliance Industries, by the way.
Treasury is...
but then it's a fast-growing
book. I think they've already crossed 10,000.
Yes.
And
10,000 crore.
In terms of book size. And that too... all secured, which is incredible, I think. They've quietly done... raised the entire book to 10,000 crores, and now they want to double it. So they are growing at a very fast pace. It's going to be tech technology driven, which is going to happen. There is a passive mutual fund license which is now been awarded to them. So the passive funds are mostly it's along with BlackRock. So you will have a lot of passive funds coming in. So mutual funds is something which they're going to get into. So I think it's just picking up some pace. From a P&L point of view, it's still not as it's not so clear in that sense. It's very thin P&L which is there. They have all this business have to get a pace to for us to even say that okay, now we should look at the valuation which Bajaj Finance is getting versus a Jio will get going forward.
Okay, so that's on Jio Finance. Do you have a view on Trill and Hindustan Zinc? Trill,
Zinc has come out with the interim dividend.
Yes.
And that's a play which is there. They're one of the largest.
But they keep doing that.
They keep doing that. It's a cash generating business. They're doing it.
Large amount of debt also.
And also the fact that they also produce silver.
Yeah.
Okay? And silver prices are going up. So that's something which will help them with their realizations going forward as well, if silver prices remain elevated for them in that sense. So the immediate trigger is the interim dividend which they have announced, and that's something which is driving the demand for them.
Perfect. Should we wrap up? Because
yes.
I know there are still more questions.
You want to?
So Tarl, I'll keep this very short. Very fast growing. It's a sector, again, very similar to Power Grid or play on Power Grid's capex, where there's a lot of transformer demand. Pricing has remained elevated, continues to be so. Globally also there is plenty of demand because of renewables and that entire shift. So believe that tailwind should continue, but the stock again has rallied. It's trading at around 65 times if I recall right. So therefore it's an expensive proposition. If you hold it, then I believe you want to continue to ride the rally. It's a good one. But if you want to build a fresh position at these levels, you want to see how long are you willing to hold it for. Because you just don't want to add a position and then thereafter see a cycle.
We just want to put one caveat across. We are, telling you all the fundamentals of a company based on what we read on a daily basis. It doesn't mean that we are the thing on this. You have to do your own homework. Go out, read, look at the companies. There are many research reports which are available for those who want to read research reports. Go to our website NDTVProfit.com. You will see a lot of research reports on many companies there. You can read about it on a daily basis, and also go through the transcripts on an earning whenever the earnings comes in.
Yes.
That will give you a good insight if you're planning to make a portfolio for yourself and decide. To begin with, decide what is the kind of risk profile you want to take, and then you allocate your resource money accordingly, whether it's going to be short term, medium term, or long term, which you want to do.
Yeah, and this conversation is more to do with just explaining what we know in terms of the company and not to kind of give you a direction.
It's not a recommendation. Yeah. It's just an educative process we are following in informing you so that you can use that information for your decisions. That's what.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And the direction in which we are thinking, we're just kind of giving you that. So please be careful and see there are multitude of factors that's also involved. Your time horizon of the investment, whether you're already invested at lower levels and therefore if you exit at this point, is there a capital gains tax involved? All of those factors add up to eventually a buy or sell decision. And the
factors that we see today. So, maybe a week down the line, you may not see the same factors. The factors may have changed a bit. And that will change the outlook for the sector or the companies which is there. So, be careful.
And you can ask us that question again here and we'll try to address it the best we can.
We are open to changing our views because it's a dynamic situation which is there. But our direction will be same in that sense, in some way. But we will not, so it may get pushed by certain events can push it. So, IT has been weak, but IT has been outperforming in the last few weeks. One reason could be, the kind of pessimism which has been there. So people are now buying it, saying, okay, अब हो गया, बहुत नीचे चला गया, अब इसके नीचे नहीं जा सकता.
Correct.
That kind of thing. But that doesn't mean the outlook has changed for IT. Again, next 2 to 3 quarters are going to be challenging for them. So that's a way to look at.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry we couldn't take all the questions. It's just too many today. So
Yes.
thank you.